On her first day stepping through the soaring glass doors of Sterling and Company in London's financial district, Marina Carlisle could feel her heart hammering in her chest. The reception area was suffused with a solemn air, the warm yellow lights glinting off the marble countertop, as if reminding every visitor that they had entered one of Europe's most powerful corporations. Marina drew a deep breath, steadying herself to mask her nerves. Fresh out of university, she had won an internship scholarship here, a dream she'd nursed since her days as a struggling student in Hanoi. Though confident in her quickness and powers of observation, she nonetheless felt like a tiny speck amid the 30-story edifice. Her gaze flicked to the plaque reading Chief Executive Officer's Office down Corridor 17, the very place she would knock first thing that morning. In her mind rang her mother's advice: be confident, no one is born perfect, but never be afraid to learn. She smiled to herself and gently pushed the door open. Inside sat a middle-aged man in immaculate attire, eyes steely and unreadable, behind a walnut desk. He did not swivel to look at her when she knocked. Instead, he merely inclined his head, granting her permission. In that instant, Marina noticed her hand trembling. Dorian Sterling rose to greet her. Tall and lean, with dark hair shot through with a few streaks of silver, his features were stern yet undeniably masculine. His attire was understated, a crisp white shirt with cuffs fastened, charcoal trousers, but his presence alone demanded respect. He surveyed Marina from head to toe with an almost forensic gaze, as if inspecting every pore. For a moment, she wondered if she truly had what it took to remain here. His voice was low and emotionless as he spoke. I hear you were outstanding at university, but the real world is very different from theory. You'll begin by shadowing Lydia, head of client relations. Marina simply nodded, swallowing the turmoil rising in her chest. She knew Lydia to be strict but also a reliable mentor. With that brief exchange over, Marina left his office feeling simultaneously welcomed and tested. The first days of her internship flew by in a whirlwind of meetings, sales reports, and presentations to senior leadership. Whenever Marina pitched an idea, Dorian's gaze was like a spotlight exposing every flaw. In a first-week meeting, she had projected a revenue growth forecast of only 5% instead of the anticipated 8%. Without a moment's hesitation, he snapped, "This figure is unacceptable. Have you rechecked the data?" The room fell silent. Marina's face flushed, her heart pounding so fiercely she feared it might burst from her ribs. She stammered, "I compiled it according to Land's spreadsheet, but I hadn't adjusted for the Asian market variables." Her voice quivered, and Dorian merely nodded once, offering no further comment. Back in her modest flat, Marina sank to the floor, tears welling in her eyes. She wondered if enduring this pressure was worth it. Visions of a rejection notice for a full-time position, of her mother's home-cooked meals on the streets of Hanoi, of her family's worried faces swirled in her mind. She almost resolved to quit. Yet when she opened Sterling and Company's benefits email, she saw the comprehensive medical coverage, free advanced courses, and the personal mentoring program with the CEO. Each benefit listed leapt off the screen, urging her to persevere. That night, Marina burned the midnight oil poring over market research articles, brushing up on SWOT analysis, and drafting slide templates. The pale desk lamp cast her determined expression in sharp relief. In her heart she vowed, "I won't let one criticism defeat me. I will prove to Dorian what I'm truly capable of." She carefully noted every piece of feedback he'd given in meetings, then mapped out step-by-step improvements. The next morning, Aurora, after mistakenly calling herself Marina in her rush, hurried into the office with an entirely transformed mindset. She entered the meeting room with hands steady rather than shaking. When Dorian inquired about her updates, she responded clearly, supporting every point with European market charts and a coherent line of reasoning. At that moment, from the far end of the table, she thought she caught the faintest satisfied curl of his lips. Though she couldn't be certain, it warmed her spirit. Her story did not end there. As her workload intensified, Marina realized it was exactly these challenges that were forging her resilience. Every reprimand drove her back to her tiny flat to dive into research again, and each solution she unearthed brought her a quiet sense of triumph. From a bewildered intern, she grew adept at emotional balance, volunteering for extra tasks, breaking projects into manageable deadlines, and mastering the cadence of professional email correspondence. With each passing day, she gained confidence in client meetings and sharpened her arguments. Dorian's presence gradually threaded through her reports like a silent touchstone. He offered little praise, preferring instead to revise her slides after hours, align data in her Excel models, and leave brief comments, review the risk analysis section. To Marina, these seemingly austere notes became the fuel for her continuous improvement. She even found herself developing feelings for the man behind the cold tone. Sometimes, after a late-night debrief, Dorian would linger to hand her a steaming cup of coffee. Other times, she'd hear his footsteps in the long hallway and feel an irresistible urge to follow him, seeking more of his guidance. By autumn, London's streets were strewn with amber leaves and a bracing Thames breeze crept through the lofty office windows. Marina gazed out at this foreign yet now familiar tableau, no longer the timid graduate of her first day. In her chest burned a newfound conviction: the road ahead would be fraught with trials, but she was ready to meet them. And no matter how stern or distant Dorian Sterling seemed, she believed that his discerning regard would ultimately be her compass to success. From then on, Marina woke each morning filled with new objectives. She devoted 30 minutes before work to reading financial news, tracking European market shifts, and jotting down industry jargon. On the tube, she discreetly listened to business management podcasts and practiced data analysis apps on her phone. Her self-drive caught the attention of her colleagues. They began to regard her with a blend of admiration and astonishment, for few interns invested such passion. At the second weekly International Partnerships meeting of all department heads at 9 a.m., Marina felt senior executives scrutinizing stares, and Dorian's impassive gaze from the far end of the crescent-shaped table. When her slides appeared, SWOT analysis for the Japanese partner project, currency fluctuation forecasts, and political risk assessments, she spoke with slow, clear confidence. As she outlined an online distribution channel partnership to reduce intermediary costs, a director's phone buzzed with an urgent message. A major Tokyo partner had abruptly paused negotiations and demanded a review of the delivery process. Her heart skipped. Sensing a real-world test, she raised her hand and offered to handle the crisis, form an emergency analysis team, divide tasks between Sterling and Company and the Japanese subsidiary, and implement the new transaction monitoring software she'd researched in her university thesis. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. For the first time, Dorian smiled and gently nodded. "Miss Hayes, you have 2 hours. I'll spend half that time reviewing your proposal." Her cheeks flushed with a mix of nerves and exhilaration. The next 2 hours were a blur of intensity. Marina huddled with Lydia and the IT team around a round table, laptops open, faces etched with concentration. She coordinated, analyzed documents, video-called Tokyo, and kept the workflow humming. Sweat beaded on her back, yet her sole thought was to meet the deadline. When time ran out, she hands-freighted her detailed proposal to Dorian, then rose to sketch an outline on the whiteboard, guiding everyone through the complex plan step by step. Her voice was steady, her eyes resolute. When the emergency session adjourned, Dorian asked the others to continue upstairs, leaving just the two of them at a small oak table by the window. The late afternoon sun filtered through, casting a golden glow across his features. He opened Marina's file, flipped through the slides with lightning speed, then rested a hand on the table. Marina held her breath. "Very thorough analysis, high feasibility," he said in a deeper tone than usual. "However, pay attention to the legal risk section in 3.1. I've flagged it. You should incorporate real examples from a recent PwC project to strengthen the case." Marina nodded eagerly, her heart soared at both the praise and the valuable guidance. She jotted down every word, feeling as if she were being shepherded by a master mentor. After that day, Marina's reputation spread across the firm. Colleagues began calling her the fixer, the one who turned crises into opportunities. With every assignment, she proposed creative initiatives, online workshops for partners, data-driven demand forecasting, even a micro-influencer marketing strategy for Asian markets. Gradually, Dorian entrusted her with greater responsibilities, from supporting minor negotiations to drafting presentations for the CEO. Marina welcomed each new challenge. Amid her professional triumphs, however, Marina wrestled with subtle conflicts. She questioned whether her laser focus on work had erected an invisible wall between her and Dorian. Whenever they met, she maintained a strictly professional veneer, concealing the emotions stirring within her. She recalled the afternoon he waited with her for the elevator, casually asking, "Have you had lunch? I ordered you a sandwich." A small gesture, but one that had brightened her entire day. At times she chided herself, should I see him purely as a colleague? Or have I already begun to feel something more? These thoughts kept her awake, tossing between slide decks and memories of his smile. Over time, Marina realized she was growing not only in expertise but also in emotional intelligence. She learned to compartmentalize work and feelings, while proactively studying leadership, to ensure that, if ever she had to stand opposite Dorian, she would not lack courage. She devoured books on organizational psychology, practiced data-driven persuasion, and committed every piece of Dorian's feedback to memory to understand his mindset. These efforts transformed her from a mere intern into a rising star in the HR department's eyes. Marina's first London winter brought drizzle and biting winds, yet she maintained her morning runs, a rare moment for self-reflection. She envisioned the woman she was a month ago, trembling on her first day, then the person she had become, resilient, independent, and hungry for challenges. Deep inside, she knew the journey ahead remained long, but she now possessed the bravery to continue, for at Sterling & Company, every setback was merely a springboard to the next stage of growth. And one final secret buoyed her spirit. Dorian's seemingly indifferent demeanor, she realized at last, was the slow-burning ember that warmed her belief that she could always push forward. In Marina's heart, that faith alone would carry her onward. Spring arrived, and Sterling & Company's office buzzed with fresh energy as the cherry blossoms on the building's grounds burst into bloom. Marina often arrived before business hours, standing by the window to watch the petals drift to the ground and wondering if she was strong enough to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In her mind still echoed the moment Dorian Sterling first offered her that encouraging smile. Yet she also worried about Vivian Sinclair's return, Dorian's ex, now CEO of their strategic partner Proxima Tech. Just as Marina's professional journey was soaring, tensions flared the moment Vivian appeared with a disdainful glance at her during the collaboration meeting. Marina felt her heart tighten, memories of past awkward reprimands flooding back, but she refused to falter. In that first joint meeting with Proxima Tech, Marina was entrusted with presenting the shared marketing plan for the two companies. The weight of expectation pressed on her shoulders as senior executives filled the large conference room. Vivian sat across from her, eyes coldly scrutinizing every slide Marina advanced. A dry throat threatened to choke her, but she told herself, "I've come too far to stop now." Her smile trembled for a moment, then she began. Her voice stuttered in the opening minutes, but grew steady as she marshaled concrete data, comparing British and Japanese market trends and proposing the micro-niche influencer strategy Dorian had suggested. Everything flowed more smoothly than she dared hope, until Vivian interrupted, sharply criticizing a budget analysis oversight. Marina's heart skipped, but she inhaled deeply and replied calmly, "I will supplement the actual operating cost figures from Proxima Tech's Q2 data and apply a 7% contingency adjustment for market fluctuations. The revised budget plan will be ready within 24 hours." Her decisiveness silenced the room. Dorian nodded in approval, no words needed. His eyes said it all. After the meeting, Marina returned to her desk, the earlier tension melting into exhilaration. She realized how much she'd grown. No longer the trembling graduate of her first day, she could now confront, debate, and defend her ideas before the firm's toughest personalities. And deep down, she knew it was Dorian's faith in her that gave her the courage to stand up to Vivian. His presence in her mind was like a guiding lighthouse, illuminating not only her work but also her tangled emotions. That night, Dorian lay awake replaying the meeting. He remembered Marina's confident stance before the digital board, her unwavering gaze. A restless yearning stirred within him. He had unknowingly empowered her, and now he wanted to take things further. The next morning, he found an opportunity to speak with Marina privately beneath the glass canopy, where petals still drifted on the breeze. His voice softer than usual, he said, "Your presentation yesterday was excellent. I've noted a few small points in an email. Could you meet me at the cafe across the street at 7 this evening? I'd like to explain further." Marina's fragile smile nearly faltered at the invitation's personal warmth. That evening, the riverside cafe by the Thames glowed with warm lamplight as the wind rustled the awnings. Dorian ordered 2 cappuccinos in advance, his expression uncharacteristically nervous. As Marina listened to his deeper breakdown of the budget, she dared not meet his eyes, afraid he might read her thoughts. Though the conversation was about work, his tone brimmed with genuine care. He pointed out not only the slide's shortcomings but praised her quick learning, accurate examples, and poise. Marina felt an unfamiliar warmth spread through her chest, each bullet point on her slides transforming into the shared heartbeat of 2 people. From that date, their relationship shifted into a new dimension. At work, Marina still received Dorian's rigorous but thoughtful guidance. In private, they shared rare, tender moments. Marina understood that her journey wasn't only about career advancement but also about capturing one another's hearts. Deep in her soul, she resolved not just to excel professionally but to embrace this budding affection with courage and wisdom. And as London's spring gave way to summer, both of them looked forward to a fresh beginning for their story together. One rare, sweltering June morning in London, Marina Carlisle woke before her alarm. She peered through the thin curtains as pale sunlight filtered through the leaves, illuminating the pages of her project notes for Nexus Connect, which she had updated all night. A surge of excitement mixed with anxiety tightened in her chest. Only 2 days remained until the launch of the AI-driven customer feedback platform co-developed by Sterling and Company and Proxima Tech. From the outset, Marina had been tasked with crafting the entire communications strategy, coordinating the technical and marketing teams, and liaising with the developers in Japan. This was her chance to prove herself to the board, yet she also felt pressure mounting as Vivian Sinclair continued to launch subtle jabs in email, claiming Marina's plan lacked technical depth and wasn't fitting for the European market. As Marina strode onto the company grounds, her mind spun. "I need to re-review the demo, vet every training bot script line, ensure the data analysis matches the latest API." She forced herself to pause at the coffee machine, inhaled slowly, and whispered, "I've weathered storms before, just a little further." The fragrant cappuccino in her hand gave her fresh energy. She hurried down the corridor, greeting Lydia, head of partnerships, and nodding to Dorian Sterling, who stood by the window overlooking the sparkling Thames. His eyes met hers, and he offered a brief, encouraging nod. Before entering the project meeting room, Marina opened her laptop to perform one final check of her slides: the AI recommendation feature overview, the projected growth figures, the 4-step rollout process. She wondered if her narrative was compelling enough, if her wording would truly motivate the partners. Then she recalled Dorian's advice: when you present, tell a story. Numbers alone aren't enough, you need the human element. Marina decided to add a new slide depicting her and the engineering team working late into the night, the cool glow of screens reflecting their determined faces. She allowed herself a thin smile, confident that this story would touch her audience. The meeting took place in the building's largest conference room, sunlight streaming through its soaring curved windows. At the head of the table sat Dorian Sterling with a stern gaze. Vivian Sinclair sat beside him, arms crossed, her eyes sharp as knives. Proxima Tech executives joined via video conference, their faces intent on every one of Marina's movements. She stepped up to the podium, surveyed the room, and began, "Ladies and gentlemen, Today I'm honored to share the journey of Nexus Connect from prototype to user-ready platform. But first, I'd like to tell you about the people who never stopped working through the night. Her voice rang clear, both inspiring and confident. She spoke of the 20 Japanese engineers, the spirited London marketing team, and herself, the new graduate determined to master emerging technology. Throughout her presentation, Marina sensed Dorian's thoughtful gaze following her from time to time. When she concluded, "We aren't just delivering a product, we're committing to real, authentic experiences for every customer," the room fell silent for a heartbeat, then erupted in applause. Marina felt her heart soar, her breathing raced with emotion. Across the table, Vivian could not maintain her icy facade, her lips pressed into a thin line. Marina knew this was a small but significant victory. She had used storytelling at precisely the right moment, cutting through her rival's skepticism. Afterwards, Marina accompanied Dorian into the lounge, its warm lights and the soft hiss of an espresso machine creating an intimate setting. He smiled gently. "You performed even better than I expected. Your passion and empathy truly showed." Marina blushed, lowering her eyes to her coffee cup. She replied shyly, "Thank you for the opportunity, and for the timely encouragement." Dorian paused, then said slowly, "We still have work to do, 2 days until launch. But I believe you're fully prepared." Those words etched a deep confidence in Marina. She was not only the student praised by her mentor but a teammate sharing the responsibility. The final 48 hours moved at a breakneck pace: test runs, security checks, and a final rehearsal before leadership. Late at night, Marina still sat at her desk, eyes bleary but burning with determination. She recalled her first days at Sterling, uncertain, self-doubting, easily discouraged. Now she knew how to enlist colleagues' help, balance data with narrative, lead a small team, and listen carefully to refine her approach. Every keystroke, every slide design, every practiced inflection built toward this moment. On the eve of the launch, Sterling and Company held a rehearsal reception on the rooftop, the city lights twinkling below. Marina stood by the railing, the Thames breeze at her back, remembering every stumble, every critique from Dorian, every drop of sweat spilled late into the night. She wondered if she should confess to him that he had become her greatest inspiration. But she sternly reminded herself, romance needs the right timing. For now, focus on tomorrow. Her phone chimed, a message from Dorian, "Meet me at 7 a.m. in the main boardroom. I need to go over final details with you." Marina's smile shone bright. She turned back toward her colleagues, ready for the final triumph, not only of the project but of her own heart. On the day Nexus Connect was unveiled, Marina woke up very early, her heart brimming with energy and a touch of nervous excitement. She cradled the laptop that had kept her up countless nights perfecting the demo and thought, all this effort will finally pay off. Along the way to the office, every tech news channel buzzed about the collaboration between Sterling and Company and Proxima Tech, heightening Marina's sense of responsibility. Stepping through the glass doors, she realized she was no longer the awkward intern of old but the principal coordinator of the year's most critical campaign. Inside the large conference room, all the lights were already on and a 4K screen displayed the Nexus Connect logo. Rows of seats were filled with representatives from the press, international partners, and the leadership teams of both firms. Marina stood behind the door, her pulse racing, a sign that the presentation was about to begin. Silently peering through the small window, she saw Dorian Sterling at the back of the room, his expression cold yet intense. In that moment, Marina recalled the many sleepless nights she had shared with him, his patient guidance, and the rare encouraging smile that had given her newfound confidence. When the lights dimmed, Marina stepped onto the podium with composed grace. She opened with the story of the platform's journey, from the seed of an idea planted in that first meeting with Proxima Tech, through the nights when engineers in Japan and London coordinated across 3 time zones, to the role she herself, a young woman from Vietnam, had played in connecting it all. Her voice resonated with faith and aspiration. "We are not merely building a platform, we are creating a bridge between humanity and technology." Each slide transitioned seamlessly, every statistic and illustration perfectly placed to highlight the AI-powered personalization features. Mid-presentation, a short video Marina had edited began to play, portraits of the team members, the glow of late-night keyboards, laughter interspersed with tense moments in the emergency meeting room. The audience fell silent, then erupted into applause when the video ended. Marina felt sweat on her brow and her heart pounding in her chest. She blinked fast, masking her emotion, and moved on to demonstrate the user-friendly interface, instant feedback loops, and fail-safe scenarios. The Proxima Tech executives nodded approvingly and exchanged satisfied glances. When she concluded, the MC invited Marina and Dorian for a brief Q&A with the press. Marina fielded questions confidently, outlining the 6-month growth strategy. When a reporter asked about competition, she smiled, "We believe in the synergy of people and technology, and Nexus Connect is living proof of that." Flashbulbs popped, and praise for her professionalism filled the room. In that moment, Marina felt every ounce of her effort vindicated. The ceremony ended to thunderous applause. Marina, exhausted yet elated, received flowers and congratulations from partners. Dorian appeared at her side, resting a hand on her shoulder, his eyes shining with pride. No words were needed, they understood one another. Marina whispered, "Thank you for always believing in me." He nodded gently. "You did brilliantly. Let's keep moving forward together." At the celebratory dinner that followed, as glasses were raised, Marina looked around, at Lydia, her colleagues, even Vivian, who now nodded approval, and vowed to herself to keep growing, to be not only a passionate manager but also a steadfast partner to the man who had given her this chance. From that night on, Marina's career took flight, and the path of her relationship with Dorian began to open up, promising new challenges and happiness ahead. After the celebration, Marina returned to her small apartment, a mixture of fatigue and joy washing over her. London sparkled under streetlights, yet new thoughts ignited in her mind. First came the pride of a successful launch, from the timid girl of her first day to a key figure addressing the media, every step a testament to tireless effort. She recalled the weeks spent in front of her screen, startled by Vivian Sinclair's critical emails, her heart racing whenever Dorian's firm critiques landed. All of it had become fuel, driving her to prove her worth. But before satisfaction could settle in, a new challenge loomed. On Monday morning, just as Marina arrived at the office, her phone buzzed relentlessly with emails. A message from Proxima Tech. Initial revenue data showed Nexus Connect's user numbers at only 60% of projections. The figure prompted concern, and Vivian quickly sent a scathing evaluation, claiming Marina's communications campaign produced an emotional buzz but lacked solid metrics and calling for a complete marketing overhaul. Colleagues whispered, and Lydia shot Marina a worried glance. For an instant, Marina's heart raced as if her launch had crumbled before her eyes. She scanned the report, examined every chart, then steeled herself with a silent promise, "I won't let Vivian, or this initial data, defeat me. This is only the beginning." In the urgent meeting that followed, Vivian's voice cut through the room. Sterling's team had overstated market potential. Marina felt the world tilt. Vivian's piercing stare conjured memories of Dorian's early admonishments for rookie mistakes. Although she had learned to withstand such scrutiny, facing Dorian's old rival still stirred a vague fear deep inside her. Marina bowed her head, inhaled, and then raised her eyes steadily. Her voice no longer trembled. "Thank you, Ms. Sinclair, for highlighting the issue. However, I believe the 60% figure reflects only our initial user segment. Data collected over the next 48 hours will show a 20% engagement increase once retailer content by region. I propose an A/B test targeting the under 30 demographic in Berlin and Madrid, where we anticipate the highest adoption rates." Dorian's eyes sparked, then he furrowed his brow in a nod. The room fell silent, and then whispers of astonishment spread. From that moment, Marina threw herself into her work with unprecedented intensity. She analyzed login data, audited bounce rates, refined short-form video content, and spent hours with the dev team optimizing the UI. At night, while colleagues had gone home, Marina remained in the meeting room, her personal LED lamp illuminating one corner as she stared at the charts. She questioned herself, will all this prove to Dorian that I'm not just an outstanding intern but also a valuable partner? Yet she knew she couldn't focus on personal feelings. No matter how tired she was, she reminded herself that her immediate goal was to propel Nexus Connect past its launch phase, not to let anyone, not even Vivian, dictate her worth. In another part of Sterling and Company, Dorian too endured sleepless nights. He reviewed every report Marina sent and considered her A/B testing proposal. Deep down, he realized he had invested far too much expectation in her, expectations of skill, of responsibility, and of resilience. The image of Marina surrounded by data, faltering then regaining confidence, filled him with both admiration and anxiety. If she fell, it wouldn't merely be a campaign's failure but a personal failing he couldn't forgive himself for, the man who had placed so much faith in her. By the third day of Nexus Connect's trial phase, engagement rates climbed to 75%, then 82%. It was encouraging news, but Marina didn't celebrate. She continued her analysis. 80% of users drop off after onboarding. We need to simplify the verification process from 4 steps to 3. She directed the UI/UX team to run a quick test with 20 internal volunteers. Each proposal she made, Dorian stood quietly behind her, listening and offering guidance. Review the instruction text, replace enter code with input activation code for clarity. Each small detail improved user experience, and for Marina, these were priceless lessons in leadership finesse. When the company rolled out the update, Nexus Connect hit a 92% engagement rate, nearly the 95% target they had set. At the trial phase wrap-up meeting, the board praised the campaign, citing Proximiteca's assessment, an outstanding example of seamless collaboration between the London and Japanese teams under Ms. Carlisle's deft leadership. Marina glowed under her colleagues' admiring gazes and Dorian's warm look. She felt as though her feet floated and her heart soared with a blend of pride and joy. Yet even as her workload lightened, the terrain of the heart presented new challenges. One early summer evening, Dorian invited Marina to dinner at a riverside bistro, with no mention of work. Candlelight flickered across Marina's thoughtful face as she regarded Dorian, who nervously adjusted his tie clip, a faint smile playing on his lips. Marina felt her heartbeat quicken. She knew this was the moment to be brave, not to face work pressures, but to confront the emotions she rarely revealed. Deep down, she was ready to confess that she treasured not only his mentorship but the man he was beneath his stoic exterior. But before Marina could speak, her phone buzzed, a group message. Vivian announced Proximitec had just signed a secondary trial contract with another company, costing Sterling and Company an expansion opportunity. Silence fell over the dinner table. Marina looked up at Dorian, seeing disappointment and tension shadow his face. She asked softly, "Do we still have a chance?" Dorian brushed her hand gently. In his deep voice, he replied, "We do. No one said this journey would be easy. You and I, we face it together." His words steadied Marina's resolve, yet she realized that winning his trust and his heart would be a far longer journey. A gentle summer night in London, the breeze teasing the blossoms along the road, carried the promise of a new day. Marina knew more storms lay ahead, in both work and a relationship fraught with barriers. But she had learned to stand firm, to turn every setback into a lesson, and that love, like a project, requires planning, effort, and perseverance. She tilted her head to look at Dorian by her side and smiled. In that moment, she told herself, no matter what tomorrow brings, I will not stop. The story between her and Dorian, like Nexus Connect, was only just beginning. In the warm amber glow of the riverside restaurant by the Thames, Marina felt her heart beating in her chest as she faced Dorian. In that cocoon, separate from the world outside, she quietly met his gaze, the steady eyes of a resolute leader, but also those of the man who had guided her unobtrusively through so many trials. She remembered his very first piece of advice: revise your introduction so the story has more depth. And just this afternoon, when he took her hand in the aftermath of the Proximatech setback, Marina realized that love, like work, demands timely adjustments and mutual commitment. The dinner left a sweet aftertaste tinged with worry. When Marina stepped out onto the dock and the river breeze tousled her hair, she leaned into the shoulders of Dorian's tailored vest and asked in a trembling voice, "Are you upset that we missed the chance to expand?" Dorian smiled gently, his eyes drifting toward the sparkling cityscape. "Every failure is an opportunity to chart a new course. This time, I want you to lead the negotiations with our new partner in Paris." Marina felt her head spin. Paris, such a leap forward. She was equal parts nervous and exhilarated at the challenge, proud that Dorian continued to trust her with each opportunity. In the days that followed, Marina threw herself into preparing for her Paris business trip. She mapped out a detailed schedule, a meeting with Technova's board, a workshop to introduce the Nexus Connect demo, and a networking dinner with Europe's top CTOs. She rehearsed every presentation in front of a mirror, fine-tuning her gestures and inflections to inspire her audience. At the same time, she and Lydia reviewed contracts and worked with legal to ensure every confidentiality clause was airtight. Each night, Marina recorded in her journal, "Today I learned to negotiate based on the value we create, not just the numbers. I realize that genuine human connection is what cements a partnership's success." Marina still felt pangs of homesickness. She missed being called Aurora as a child, and family dinners with her parents. Now her business card read Miss Carlisle, and she took pride in her journey, from Hanoi to London, and now to Paris, as her own true story. But what made her happiest wasn't just each career milestone, but the man who stood by her side. Marina told herself, "Dorian Sterling isn't just my boss, he's the one who's given me the strength to believe in myself." On departure day at Heathrow, Marina stood ready with a light carry-on, thick briefing materials in hand, and a pair of elegant heels. She felt both excitement and solemn resolve. Success in Paris would shape the project's future, and theirs. Taking a deep breath, she whispered, "I'm ready." As the plane lifted off and London slipped beneath the clouds, Marina pressed her palm to her heart, convinced that passion, dedication, and love would carry her to every summit ahead. Touching down at Charles de Gaulle, Marina retrieved her suitcase from the carousel and immediately sensed Paris's intoxicating, hurried charm. The city of lights, sidewalk cafes, and historic palaces would be where she proved her mettle. A flurry of emotions washed over her: joy at this opportunity, anxiety for the challenge, and, unmistakably, a longing for London, where Dorian awaited. She inhaled the faint scent of pepper from idling taxis, then made her way to the Technova reception desk at 5 Avenue Montaigne. That afternoon, Marina, Lydia, and a small Sterling and Company delegation entered Technova's boardroom. Sunlight streamed through the grand windows, casting shadows of Haussmann buildings across the floor. Marina offered polite smiles, though inside her pulse raced. Would the Paris edition slides she'd perfected over 2 sleepless nights be persuasive enough? When Technova's sharp-eyed CEO, a formidable Frenchwoman, nodded her invitation to begin, Marina drew a deep breath and launched into her English presentation, peppered with a few French phrases. Mesdames et messieurs, today I am thrilled to introduce how Nexus Connect can revolutionize customer experience in the European fashion market. Each carefully measured sentence conveyed both professionalism and warmth. As Marina highlighted the 92% engagement increase from London's test phase, the Technova director's eyes lit up. She transitioned to the demo, a customizable interface allowing fashion brands to tailor experiences by purchase history, color preferences, and even trending styles. The CEO furrowed her brow for a moment, then smiled. "Trace interessant. But how about data privacy? We are strictly regulated by GDPR." Marina was prepared. She swiftly explained their encryption process and pledged to strip all sensitive data before analysis. By the time she finished, the CEO was nodding approval and praising Marina's grasp of European regulations. Stepping into the hallway afterward, Marina felt a rush of relief at this initial success. But moments later, her phone buzzed with a message from Vivian Sinclair. "Heard you're charming, Paris. Don't get too comfortable." A chill ran down Marina's spine. She deleted the message immediately and vowed not to let such taunts unsettle her. A few steps on, Dorian appeared, impeccably suited, concern in his eyes. "Everything okay?" "I just arrived." Marina gave him a confident smile. "Very well. I'll prepare for tomorrow's workshop." He nodded, though his gaze still held a hint of worry, as if the distance between Paris and London were no more than a single thought. The next day's workshop took place in Proximiteca's bright Paris offices. Marina stood amid cutting-edge equipment while senior CTOs and engineers observed with expert scrutiny. As she guided them through customizing AI marketing funnels, some furrowed their brows at the complexity. Marina welcomed every critique, moving from station to station. Sweat dampened her back, but she pressed on. When an engineer triggered a small glitch in the recommendation module, Marina quickly connected via video call to the Japanese dev team, coordinated an urgent fix, and restored the demo within 20 minutes. Applause broke out when the update rolled out smoothly. In that moment, Marina recognized her growth. Not only could she deliver polished presentations, but she could also handle crises on the spot. When the workshop concluded, Marina and Dorian strolled along the Seine. Under the soft streetlights, Marina exhaled, "Thank you for always being here. I couldn't have done this without you." Dorian looked at her and gently took her hand. "You did amazingly well. And this is just the beginning. I want you by my side as we expand into Berlin and Madrid." Tears glimmered in Marina's eyes. "I'm ready." Yet amid her joy, she felt an inner tug-of-war, the desire to achieve new heights alongside him, and the flutter of an ever-deepening affection. She met Dorian's gaze, where an unspoken promise shimmered. They were no longer just boss and assistant, but partners on life's journey. The Paris trip closed with a preliminary contract signing with Technova, marking the gateway to Europe. As they rode the train back to London, Marina sat by the window, hands tracing her journal's final entry. "Today I learned that success isn't just about conquering numbers, but about earning people's trust. Dorian hasn't just shared knowledge with me, he's given me the confidence to believe in myself." A nighttime breeze drifted through the glass, and Marina snapped her journal shut, eyes alight with determination. She was ready for the next chapter, not only in her career, but in the pursuit of love with the man who had believed in her above all others. The next chapter unfolds in the late autumn days of Berlin, when the air carries the unmistakable chill of seasonal transition. Marina Carlisle and Dorian Sterling stepped out of Friedrichstrasse station, a thin mist drifting among trees lit by street lamps. Marina huddled in her long wool coat, clutching the dossier she had prepared all week. Each breath she took hung visibly in the quiet air, a reminder that she must steel herself for this new challenge. Berlin was not only a key market but also a place where linguistic, cultural, and technical barriers posed a formidable test. On their first day, they met with Gigamart's leadership, a rapidly expanding electronics retail chain. As Marina entered the boardroom, dozens of probing and skeptical eyes tracked her every movement. She recalled Dorian's advice, "Let your data and your story complement each other," and opened with a concise overview of Nexus Connect from the customer experience perspective. Her voice was warm and measured, each word chosen with care. She guided them through concrete examples. A Tokyo customer offered perfectly matched accessories after just a few clicks, a European fashion house boosting sales thanks to the platform's smart recommendations. Slowly, the room's atmosphere shifted, from doubt to curiosity, and finally to nods of agreement. Midway through her German market analysis, where privacy concerns run especially deep, Vivian Sinclair suddenly appeared behind the glass wall. Her gaze, as ever, was quietly disdainful. In that moment, Marina felt pressure surge through her, her heart pounded. She inhaled deeply and resolved to maintain her composure. When Vivian entered the boardroom and offered a curt greeting, the entire audience turned, awaiting proof that Marina's integrity or competence might be exposed. Instead, Marina greeted her with a polite smile and saved her response for the conclusion. When Marina finished, a Gigamart director voiced concern over implementation costs. We care about our initial ROI. Will the investment really justify a projected 15% revenue jump? Marina smiled and replied, as you note, AI infrastructure can be expensive. However, when compared to traditional marketing channels, factoring in waste reduction and process automation, we estimate an 8-10-month break-even. Moreover, our proposed flexible revenue sharing model with Sterling and Company mitigates financial risk for partners. She paused as the room absorbed her words. Vivian then sneered, it seems Ms. Carlisle has crunched the numbers thoroughly. But those figures come from the UK market, are they truly representative of German user preferences? Unfazed, Marina met Vivian's gaze and answered, precisely because of that concern, we conducted 2 weeks of A/B testing here in Berlin, using beta data from 5,000 local users under 35. Results showed an 89% engagement increase and 4.3/5 satisfaction. I'm happy to share the detailed report right now, if you wish. Vivian fell silent, Marina's first victory in Berlin, and she knew she had not let Dorian down. That afternoon's break found Marina gazing out at the Spree River's golden light. She felt the city's cultural currents, a blend of past and present, former industrial sites turned art centers, cafes buzzing with youth. In that quiet moment, she allowed herself to relax and savor the aroma of freshly roasted coffee in the air. She reflected on her journey, from Hanoi to London, Paris to Berlin, each city a challenge that opened new opportunities, forging her into a stronger, more confident woman. And she realized that her love of work had become her greatest driving force, alongside her love for Dorian. Her first Berlin night did not end with work. Dorian invited Marina to see Beethoven's Fidelio at Staatsoper unter den Linden. Before entering the opera house, he guided her across Bibelplatz, its street lamps casting patterns on the limestone. Marina felt a strange flutter, amid piano chords and soaring voices, she heard her own heart resonate. The next morning, while debriefing with the UI/UX team, she confessed, last night I realized that some emotions are beautiful, but timing is everything to truly appreciate them. Dorian only smiled, his eyes full of understanding. Berlin's challenges were not only professional. One evening, Marina walked alone down Castanian Alley in search of a cinnamon roll when a group of drunken youths began mocking her broken English. For a split second, shame and doubt threatened to overwhelm her. Instead of fleeing, she lifted her head, quickened her steps past them, her gaze steady and dignified. It was the first time she truly felt her inner strength, not in escape, but in standing firm when tested. Back at her hotel, she placed a hand over her heart and told herself, I belong here. By the weekend's close, before wrapping up the Berlin trip, Marina and Dorian strolled along the Spree. The lamps sparkled on the water as they walked side by side. After a long silence, Dorian said, You've grown tremendously this week. I'm proud not only of your work but of how you faced difficulties. Marina gave a soft smile, tinged with wistfulness. I still have so much to learn, but I want you to know, I'm no longer afraid. Dorian turned to her, took her hand, and said warmly, You'll never have to face anything alone. Whether in Berlin, Paris, or London, we're teammates, and perhaps something more. In that moment, Marina felt her veins flood with warmth. Their relationship had transcended the professional, reaching into the deepest realms of the heart. Returning to London, Marina carried back not just a promising German contract but hard-earned lessons in resilience. She knew Madrid awaited, and the farther horizons she and Dorian would chart together. Yet what made her happiest was not only success, but the love that had blossomed and grown between two kindred spirits. Marina smiled at a framed photo of her and Dorian by the Spree, placed on her desk. She thought, I came to Berlin to prove my worth, I'm here in London to build a future with him. Late that night, she opened her laptop under the glow of her office light and began drafting her Berlin summary, driven by the ambition to conquer new peaks, both professionally and within her own heart. With Berlin behind them, its triumphs and shared laughter by the spree, Sterling and Company next set its sights on Madrid, a city ablaze with sunshine and the intoxicating rhythms of flamenco. Marina Carlisle awoke on Monday morning to bright summer light filtering through her curtains. She slowly brewed a robust café con leche, placing the cup beside her detailed Nexus Connect Iberia roadmap. Excitement and tension mingled. Madrid was not only Spain's cultural and economic hub, but also a discerning market that prized mobile experience and community engagement. Stepping into Alianza Retail's Bauhaus-inspired boardroom, Marina took in the minimalist decor, white walls, monochrome furnishings, gentle light. At the head of the table sat marketing director Carmen Ortega, a woman in her 40s with keen eyes and a boundless creative spark, flanked by a young, dynamic team. Marina inhaled deeply, offered a warm greeting, and launched her presentation in English, weaving in Spanish touches. Buenos dias, soy Marina Carlisle de Sterling and Company. Today, I'm excited to show how Nexus Connect will transform customer interaction with your brand. As she recounted her journey from Hanoi through London, Paris, and Berlin, every obstacle overcome and every failure repurposed as a lesson, Carmen's expression softened, reflecting a shared understanding of conquering challenges. Marina detailed Berlin's test metrics: 92% engagement, 4.3/5 satisfaction, accompanied by the A/B testing report she had overseen. When she moved to localized experiences, her slide showed how the platform could suggest products tied to Madrid's San Isidro festival, eliciting delighted reactions. She smiled as she described the gastronomic rewards card idea, pairing tapas combos with Rioja, to drive sales and evoke cultural pride. Alianza's team nodded in appreciation, whispering among themselves. Then Carmen asked, "We worry that older customers may find it hard to adopt new technology. What's your solution?" Marina's eyes gleamed with resolve. "We propose a Spanish-language voice command feature tailored to Madrid, with enlarged basic options on screen. We'll also host free in-branch workshops led by experienced Alianza staff to provide hands-on support." Carmen beamed, "Excellent. You truly understand our vision." In the hallway afterward, Marina felt the weight lift from her shoulders. But as she turned to return to her hotel, Vivian Sinclair's text flashed on her phone: "Congrats on surviving Spain. But watch your back, Madrid's market is tougher than Paris or Berlin." Marina frowned, the message's chill creeping up her spine. She deleted it firmly and reminded herself, "Vivian's only trying to distract me. I'm here in Madrid to seize opportunity, there's no room for her mind games." She sent a clenched fist emoji back to Dorian, then checked her afternoon agenda: voice command workshop with UX/UI team and Alianza staff training. The workshop buzzed with energy in a bright meeting room, where Spanish programmers and designers exchanged passionate feedback. Marina stood at the center, jotting notes on volume, tone, warmth, and clarity of prompts. When a designer hesitated, asking, "Do you really think this feature will work for those over 60?" Marina answered firmly, "The Alianza staff's in-person support at registers is the key. Technology is only the tool, people make it succeed." Her words fell into a thoughtful silence, then applause. In that moment, Marina realized she was conquering more than screens and data. She was earning people's trust, a goal she'd carried since her very first day. On their final Madrid evening, Dorian took Marina to a traditional flamenco tableau. In the candlelit haze, guitar rhythms pulsed and the audience applauded the dancers' fierce passion. Marina was spellbound, her heart felt aflame. After the performance, they sat at a small table by the stage, the guitar's last notes lingering and the wine's glow warming them. Dorian gently clasped her hand and whispered, "You've conquered Madrid, not just the project, but my heart as well." Marina's eyes sparkled as she replied, "You gave me the chance, guided me every step, and, most importantly, you never stopped believing in me." Amid the hush and distant applause, they shared a tender kiss, marking the close of their European conquest and the beginning of their mutual journey of the heart. On the flight back to London, Marina gazed out the window at drifting clouds. She revisited each memory, the trembling first steps, the fumbling early meetings, the race to meet deadlines, and then her full bloom in Paris, Berlin, and Madrid. Every breeze that whispered past the glass reminded her that the journey never ends. But now, she and Dorian were no longer alone in that voyage. They were steadfast teammates and lovers, ready to face the next opportunities and challenges together. Returning to London in early autumn, Marina sat in Sterling and Company's private cabin, watching the Thames shimmer beneath the city lights through the large window. The Iberia project had just wrapped up, and her successes in Paris, Berlin, and Madrid had made Nexus Connect a phenomenon in Europe's tech scene. Yet Marina knew another equally vital battle lay ahead, winning the Sterling and Company board's approval for a global expansion plan and silencing every last interference from Vivian Sinclair. The board meeting convened Wednesday morning in room 22, the very room where she'd endured so many reprimands on her first days. But today she entered with unshakable confidence. Her presentation was organized into 3 key sections: test results from 4 pilot markets, a roadmap for expansion into North America and Asia, and a flexible revenue-sharing mechanism designed to minimize partner risk. She opened with, "Ladies and gentlemen of the board, after 6 months since launch, Nexus Connect has delivered an average 87% uplift in engagement and a 4.5 out of 5 customer satisfaction rating." The room fell silent. In a corner, Vivian Sinclair sat on the Proxima Tech side, her eyes coldly scanning each slide. Marina moved on to the roadmap. Phase 2 will focus on the US and Japan, leveraging our existing tech infrastructure while rolling out a global storytelling campaign with deep localization. She showed a short video of customers in New York and Osaka using the platform, earning warm applause at the end of that section, proof of her persuasive power. But as she transitioned into the financial model, tension spiked. Vivian rose and sneered. "Mrs. Carlisle, how exactly will your flexible revenue sharing handle vastly different contract values across markets?" Marina held her professional smile and replied, "Mrs. Sinclair, we base revenue shares on a percentage of net revenue after basic costs, with fixed floors and caps to protect our partners. The illustrative figures are detailed on slide 27. She paused and swept her gaze across the board. The atmosphere grew taut until the board chair nodded. "I'd like more detail from finance on those terms, but your proposal is very convincing." It was the crack that broke the ice, and Marina exhaled in silent relief. By day's end, Marina strode out of the Sterling building, the cool London breeze playing through her hair and a gratifying weariness settling over her after back-to-back high-stakes meetings. Her phone buzzed. "Tonight, 7 p.m., rooftop bar, Canary Wharf. I have something I want to discuss privately." It was Dorian. She smiled, knowing he wished to speak not only about the project's next steps but about theirs. That evening, on the wind-swept rooftop under a sky strewn with city lights, Marina and Dorian stood facing each other. He stepped forward, emotion in his eyes. "Marina, you've overcome everything, not just the toughest projects, but Vivian's bitterness too. You deserve more than being my assistant." Marina's heart pounded. Dorian produced a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a deep blue sapphire ring. "I want you by my side, not just at work, but in life. Will you be my girlfriend, and perhaps one day, my wife?" Time seemed to stand still. Tears slipped down Marina's cheeks as she whispered, "Yes. I will." A distant train horn echoed, and the breeze carried the river's scent mingled with the amber of the ring. Marina lowered her gaze and said softly, "Thank you for believing in me, and for giving me this chance." Dorian squeezed her hand and smiled broadly. Together, they leaned on the railing, gazing at the glittering London skyline and dreaming of the joyful journey ahead. 3 months later, at the 1-year anniversary gala for Nexus Connect's launch, Marina stood as Sterling and Company's new Global Market Development Director. The stage was resplendent, and hundreds of partners queued to have their photos taken with her. As she stepped to the podium amid sustained applause, her eyes met Dorian's proud smile in the crowd. The celebration closed with their sweet kiss beneath a barrage of camera flashes and cheers. In Marina's heart, the once timid graduate who first set foot in London had blossomed into a poised leader and the beloved partner of the man she adored. Together, they continued to write their story of conquering the world, both their careers and a love that had triumphed over every challenge. Like Nexus Connect itself, Marina and Dorian's journey was only beginning, full of promise, passion, and new chapters yet to come.